So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to write more critically in social work assignments. A lot of people get marked down for writing too descriptively, and I want to share some tips around how to improve on this. The first thing I think is useful to think about is, why is this actually a skill that's relevant to social work? So there's two reasons I can think of. The first is that when you're writing assessments, you need to be able to write in an analytical way rather than just describing the events that are happening. That's because you need to draw upon your social work knowledge and things that have informed your thinking. This is the same in assignments. You need to be able to make sense of the information that you're putting across in a way that sort of flows, so it has a chronology to it, it's clear, it's evaluating the information. The second thing is that when you're in court, you need to be able to distinguish between opinion and fact. So you need to clearly know what you have evidence for and what is just your opinion, because otherwise you might find yourself under question and scrutiny for this, and you need to be prepared for that. An important point for any assignment is making sure that you are actually answering the question. It seems simple, but this is something that often people do get wrong. So a useful tip that I have for this is to ensure that you have the question in sight at all times. So I tend to write the question on a piece of paper and just put it in my eye line, so above my desk. The other thing I do is, when I've got the learning outcomes and the marking criteria, I ensure that I'm putting this in a way that's incorporating my planning. So there may be 4 learning outcomes and a proportionate marking criteria for each. So you might get like 20% for point 1, number 2, you might get 40% for that learning outcome. So you need to make sure that your planning reflects that and that you're not writing a disproportionate amount for each point. So something that I do is put these on a table on Microsoft Word and then portion it out. So I'll show you an example of how I do that. So the next thing is to ensure that everything that you're writing is relevant to the question. So something that you can do, rather than just reading and then writing a long quotation with everything exactly how it's said in the book, is to read something and then turn away from the book and just write it from memory in your own words. And then do that quickly without trying to write it in a short and concise way. But then once you're happy that that's reflective of what was written originally, you can then start to edit that down and get it right. The other thing to do is think about what you're not going to include. So I found that I really researched a topic and I wrote reams and reams about the history of this, and I actually didn't gain many marks from it at all. So I'd wasted like 3 whole paragraphs writing too much background information. The thing that you want to do if you want to get more marks is show that you're really engaging with what you're writing. So don't waste too much time on that. So you need to think about the relevance of the information you're including as well, and what you're drawing from. So think about including some core texts. These are books that will probably be in your reading list, that are the key source material that you need to ensure is in there to make sure to reflect that you've actually understood what you've learned. The other thing to consider is that they might not necessarily be up-to-date sources. So you might find that something's been written in the 1960s, but that's actually really still relevant. But you may find that then you can critique that with journals that might be more current. So that's a good way of showing that you are being critical of what you're reading and showing that you're aware of any updates and things, and that's just a good way of doing it. The other way that you can do it is to look at the strengths and weaknesses of what you're putting forward, and also showing various viewpoints, so taking from different areas. And when you're writing, think about the marker saying, why do you think that, or have you backed that up all the time, just so that you're showing that you are aware of the need to critique and not take things on face value. When you're doing this, you may find that there's a book that is really key to all assignments, no matter what they're asking you about. So I found that to be the case around anti-oppressive and anti-discriminatory practice. So therefore I got really comfortable with writing about Neil Thompson's work around that area. And that really helped me with writing that aspect of the assignment and thinking about being critical of the question. So that's something that you could consider, getting a book that you really can rely on and that you definitely understand. You might find there's some secondary sources that you can get around theories that will help you understand something on a basic level, but then you can go straight to the source to understand it better. Something that I do is I find the theory cards really helpful by Siobhan McLean, just to understand things on a basic level, but then go to the source material and draw from that so that I've got an academic reference. I think something that can improve your marks very quickly is showing that you really clearly understand something rather than you just quoting loads of different things. When you're going back through and checking your work, you need to think about whether the things that you're saying sound convincing and whether, based on everything that you've said, that sort of forms a logical conclusion, and that everything that you've put is not just your opinion, it's backed up with other sources, like I've mentioned. That's the best way to analyse what you're doing and making sure that you're coming across as being critical of the information that you read. So I hope this video has helped. If you'd like to press subscribe and also press the bell for notifications, that would be great, because I'm trying to make sure that I'm being consistent in my content, and it's going to make sure that you'll get updated every time that I post a new video. Thank you.